Hello, everybody. How are y'all doing today out there? This is Christine from In the Ring with Christine, and I have a special guest today, Michelle Joy Phelps. She is the CEO of Boxing Reporter and Boxing Reporter for Behind the Gloves.
Mhm.
And you were the correspondent, the American correspondent in the UK for Sky Sports. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did some stuff for their podcast and some of their online or I'm sorry, on demand stuff for a while. Yeah.
Nice. Also, Maxim model, actress. I don't want to leave anything out. I know you have so many accolades, but you've done many, many things.
I've tried. um, yeah, I did some Maxim FHM back in the day. Like those are going to be like my heydays. You know, like when you're older and you're like, yeah, that was me.
Yes.
That was me in my 20s. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Show your grandkids.
yeah.
Look, I was really hot. You'll still be hot, but you'll be like, look at this.
Yeah, like
No,
that was grandma. That was
that's right. That's right. Post these pictures. No, that's funny. So I've seen your interviews. I think they're great. I love your infectious laugh. I love your confidence and the way you can just ask questions and everybody seems to be so comfortable with you. That is something that you can't learn. It just comes naturally to you.
Yeah, you
And
know what? I've always said to myself, because do you ever watch interviews and you could tell somebody's like reading or their voice changes,
yes,
where it's like
yes,
you talk to them or you see them off camera and they speak completely different than when they're off
yes,
camera. I was like,
absolutely.
I don't want to sound like that. I don't want
Yeah,
to sound like somebody I'm not, just because I'm trying to sort of portray myself to be, I don't know, I guess more corporate. So
yeah.
I've tried to always maintain being exactly who I am on
I
camera.
love that. I love that. Yes, no, you don't want that robotic. Hey, this is blah blah blah, and yeah. No, I totally get that for
Yeah.
sure. So I had seen your interviews. I always admired you. Obviously, you're beautiful physically, but whenever I started delving deeper into your Twitter, into some of your interviews, and then we had crossed paths last year at the WBC convention in Cancun. We were in line. You were not supposed to be in line. We were, so we got to talk for a second, and I was there with my very good friend Stacy Verbeek,
Hmm.
and I was like, wow, she's a really really sweet person.
Thank you.
So the reason for the interview, or me wanting this interview so bad, was to talk about something very serious. I had done a show I guess maybe a month ago, with another one of my partners. We do Blood and Gloves, and we had a female athlete, and she immediately started talking about something that most people don't talk about, for whatever reason, for being ashamed or it being taboo, or people don't believe that it's real. And that was being sexually abused at a very young age.
Hmm.
And it really caught me off guard, because as a child, I too was sexually abused, and there was abuse that continued through my teens and my 20s, and it just opened up a Pandora's box of emotion. I had never spoken publicly, or even to anyone that didn't know me, that wasn't in my inner circle. So after that interview, I started thinking, and then I had gotten on Twitter and I had seen a post that you had posted about being able to relate because you too had suffered this abuse.
Hmm.
And I immediately inboxed you because it was like, wow, there's more of us out there. Do you want to expound upon that at all, about your tweet and anything that you've been through as a child?
Um, yeah, I think a lot of people probably didn't know where this was coming from. Like it was suddenly I'm tweeting about it constantly, I'm posting about it constantly, I'm just constantly sharing what I'm also learning about what's going on in the world. So, because awareness is everything. Whether or not someone likes a post, comments on a post, they saw the post. And that's all you can do. That's all you can just try to inform people on what's happening in their within their own like neighborhoods. It's happening absolutely everywhere. It's disgusting, and it's not happening with the guy who looks like a creep. or the woman that looks like she's got something wrong with her. I mean, this is happening with normal looking people you would never
Absolutely.
suspect. This is happening with people that are, very respected within your community, whether it be
Hmm.
politicians, doctors, lawyers, police officers, you name it. They
Yes.
are pedophiles. So, um, yeah, I always had it in my heart. Anyone who's spiritual can understand this, because I
Yes.
always had it heavy in my heart
Hmm.
to want to do something about it, but I didn't know how to start. And I know last year I had reached out to a few different organizations, and I don't know why it was so. I mean, I guess I can understand why it was challenging, but there were so many different like avenues I had to go through in order for me to like get to speak to somebody about wanting to like um I don't know, just give my time. I didn't even know how I could help, but I
Right.
just knew that I wanted to help in some capacity. And then I had prayed about it for a while, and I was just like kind of seeking it, like, God, if you want me to do this, like I needed a bit of direction. And
Yeah.
I opened up I was on, I think it was Facebook, I want to say, and it was Blake Lively speaking on behalf of the Child Rescue Coalition. And she was talking about how many people there are out there exchanging child pornography, and since the lockdown, how it's gotten even worse. It's grown far more than it was prior to the lockdown, because these people aren't able to access the children as much as they were before. So what are they doing? They're trading pornography. And I just remember thinking, I'm like, I'm gonna search for this organization, and I found them on Instagram, and I followed them. And I wouldn't normally do this, but I just thought, what the hell? I'm just gonna reach out to them and tell them, look, I don't even know if I can even help. I don't even know if you guys could even use me in any way, but
Right.
I just want you to know I'm here. I'm willing to do anything, because I really believed in what they were doing. And it started spiraling from that point, because I had three other organizations reach out to me after that, after I started
Wow.
posting. And it was like happening, and it gives me goosebumps, because the
Yeah, I have
reality of it is,
goosebumps. Yeah.
I asked God, and it was like, you want it? Here it is.
Gosh.
And it just sort of flooded from there. And I just, I stopped having this worry about what people were going to think when I started talking about this, because it's very taboo. People do
Very
not like
taboo.
to talk about what is happening, the real shit that's happening in the world.
Absolutely.
People have a fear of what other people think.
Yes.
And I didn't care anymore. I suddenly did not care anymore. I didn't care that I lost hundreds of followers on Instagram, which I did. I just did not care what anyone thought anymore. And I will continue to post and bring awareness in any capacity that I can. I don't have the following that some people have, but if I have any, I should be doing this. And that's what I want to do, because, like yourself, I was sexually abused at the age of 3. It started at 3. And it's very touchy for me. And it, just like I'm sure with you, it's like when you
Yes.
hear about it, it just brings you right back, doesn't it?
Yes,
And
it does.
it took me so many years to get to this point in my life where I was able to talk about it. I mean, Christine, just last December, I went to counseling over it.
Hmm.
So when
Yeah.
you hear people who say, this is what angers me. When you hear people who say, "Oh, if it happened to them, why didn't they come out sooner? Why did they protect the predator?" There are so many layers that
Absolutely.
a victim goes through to
Absolutely.
really register what's happened. And I think what happened with me personally was that I was seeing it in my personal life,
Hmm.
and I was recognizing that. And I was
Yeah.
saying to myself, wow, Michelle, if you don't get a hold of what happened and really let yourself heal, this is forever going to affect your life. You're
Yes.
always in some capacity going to be affected. It's going to affect your relationships, your marriage one day,
Yes.
your relationship with your own children. Like,
Yes.
I can't even I can't even change a baby's diaper
Hmm. Yeah. Right. Yes.
because I
I,
don't want to touch them.
yes.
Do you understand how that deeply
I
that
can.
affects?
And that's the thing. People have no clue. I, like you, it's so funny. I was getting very emotional, very goosebumpy because I was the same, after the interview and after I had seen your post and reached out to you, I was the same. I was like, God, like I haven't dealt with this. And yes, when I was a teenager, my mom thought I was crazy and put me in counseling and so on and so forth. But of course, I was closed lip. I didn't say, I had a bad attitude, and I just didn't want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, Lord, what do you want me to do? I've got to do something. And it seems like after that, I started getting calls from like mothers and coaches and boxers, and they were from different states, and they were talking about how there are organizations or gyms that are sexually abusing these boxers. And I was just, I mean, livid, and I mean, a lot of times whenever you send your child to a boxing gym, it's maybe they don't have both parents in the house, maybe they don't have any parents, they're going there for refuge. And then I'm thinking, and these people have the audacity to take advantage of these vulnerable preteens, kids, young adults. And I just immediately said, it has to be reported, and you've got to do something, because it's hearsay, when they come to me, and what can I do? But I just felt like I need to do something. And just like it's like you go through all these layers, like you said. I mean, I have suffered depression, a manic depression. You're angry, you're sad, you're happy for a second, and I was looking at some of your posts where you're saying you like one day you're good and the next day you're not, or you can be up but so grateful, and yes, or down, and all these different roller coaster of emotions.
I think
And
that's what infuriates me about why pedophiles get such light sentences, because
mhm.
those actions cause lifetime issues. And yes, it's so easy for someone who's never been through it to say, "Oh God, get over it." It's so easy for someone to say, "Really? That happened so long ago. You haven't moved past that?"
Oh my God, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
believe it or not, I've heard that over my life.
I
I've
I
heard
have
those
too.
things.
I have to just get over it. Just get over it. And you don't. And like you said, it does affect your relationships. I'm married again now. This is my third marriage. My first two was to the same abusive person, and for me in my life, that's what it does. It takes your self-esteem away. You almost have like a red mark on your back, and you attract these people that will abuse you again. Um, and it does. It just affects everything. And thank God, my husband today is very patient. He's the one who recognized, you have manic depression. You've got something going on here, because I couldn't understand my own emotions or my own feelings. And then I started seeking help, but not really for the root of it, not where it was coming from or why. I just knew that there was something wrong with me. you
I
know.
think I totally understand that, because even with my own relationships, I mean, I'm 36 now,
Mhm.
and I can honestly look back, Christine, and tell you that no one's ever loved me. Now, I'm not talking about my family, but I mean, no man has ever loved me. Now, that's very deep for me to understand, because I tolerated relationships growing up, or tolerated relationships, while I was dating,
Yes.
that were unhealthy,
Yes. Same.
because I believed in some capacity that that was normal, that there was
Yes.
always some form of dysfunction in a relationship, that it makes it normal.
Yes.
But when I started to really kind of dive into what's happening, like, why are you accepting this? Why are
Hmm.
you okay with this? And I think it was because for so long, when I was dealing with the abuse, I became so good at portraying that I was okay,
Yes.
that
Yes.
I have become the best at acting like I'm okay when I'm not okay.
Absolutely.
And that's
Absolutely.
scary, because when you hear about, not saying I would ever commit suicide,
Right.
but when you hear about people who have died,
Yeah.
and wow, I didn't know that they were unhappy.
Yes.
I
They seemed
can
happy.
understand that.
Yeah.
I can completely relate to that, because there have been so many instances, and I think that these instances have also occurred because I have continuously put myself in harm's way with love.
Mm-hmm.
I have allowed myself to be in relationships with men who say they love me, but all
Mm-hmm.
they do is hurt me. That's
Yeah,
not love. And
absolutely
I
not.
understand that that was something that triggers back to my abuse, was that my abuse happened at the hands of my grandfather. So when he's telling me I love you and that
Yeah.
I'm supposed to trust this individual,
Yes.
and then you put me and you put me in a position like that, not just him, but he passed me to his friend. I was just a little girl. I didn't know what did I do wrong? Why were you doing this to me? What did I do to deserve this? That's what runs through your mind,
It
and then
does.
you take that with you as an adult,
Yes, absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
you don't even realize that when it's happening. It's the
No.
weirdest thing. You're in these dysfunctional relationships. You
Mm-hmm.
tolerate shit you shouldn't be tolerating.
Yes.
You're okay with things you shouldn't be okay with
Right.
because you were almost programmed that way from the
Yes,
start. And so
absolutely.
it took me recognizing that in my 30s. So when people say, I don't understand, like, if it really happened to them, why didn't they speak out sooner? Or why didn't they do this or do that? It's so easy to say that when you've not
Yes.
encountered it and understand the psychological long-term damage.
Yes.
That's why it infuriates me that these pedophiles get small, tiny sentences.
Yeah, I don't understand it, and they don't realize, and you're absolutely right. It's like when you're a child, you don't even understand what's going on. You don't even,
No, you
and
don't.
because we have nothing to compare it to. And
But children know what's right and wrong, because
absolutely.
my first memory as a child, my very first memory ever, was of being abused. And
Mhm.
so I'm coming into the world with this mentality that this is happening, but at the same time, I also knew, before I really knew what right and wrong was, I knew it
Yes.
felt wrong.
Yes, absolutely.
It wasn't right,
Absolutely.
because I remember the sense of fear and
Hmm.
um, understand that shell shock, that
Yes.
that you just
Yes.
freeze, and then you don't know what to say or do, because you just know it's happening, but you don't really know why it's happening, and
Yes.
you don't know anything. You don't know what sex is. You don't know what
No.
certain parts of men look like.
No.
That's not something a child should ever encounter. But
Absolutely
when you
not.
when you grow up, when your first memories or your youngest memories are of something that's sexual,
Hmm.
you can understand where the psychological damage comes into play.
Most
So
definitely.
that's why it's so infuriating for me to see that these pedophiles get to walk off like nothing happens. They get to, oh, he didn't kill her. He didn't kill him. So let's give him a year, and they technically get out in 6 months because of good behavior. Not
Yeah.
realizing what you've done to that person, that child, that will last a lifetime.
A
And
lifetime.
I find more often than not that people who abuse have been abused themselves.
Yes, I
It's sort
found
of
that.
like this vicious cycle that goes
Yes.
around. And I
Yes.
remember when my family and we had a lot of healing to do.
Hmm.
My grandfather, he's in prison, um, and
Good.
he's in prison for life, but not because he was sentenced to life. It was because they were going to release him, and he pled guilty at the last minute because he had nowhere to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now he's sitting in prison for abusing many children, not just me, many children, and he has yet to ever acknowledge or admit that he's done it. He still does not admit, even though he pled guilty because he had nowhere to go. He has not ever said, I'm sorry, to any of us. I wasn't the only grandchild. I wasn't the only person that he's encountered. And
And I
I don't
think
even know, I still haven't fully spoken to some of my cousins about it because they're not there with it yet. They're
right.
not, they either don't want to talk about it,
Hmm.
or they want to act like it never happened to them when I know
Yes.
that it has.
Yes. Yes. And you
So
find that a lot. You find that a lot where you just put it out of your mind, but it
Yep.
shows its ugly head in different situations. And, you know, you being as young as you are and starting to deal with it, I commend you. I mean, I'm 50 years old. You know, I have 10 children, 10 grandchildren, and I'm just now finally saying, okay, Lord, I'm ready now. And what can I do? I believe there is no rehabilitation for a
Nope.
pedophile. That's
There
just
isn't.
what I believe.
There is not. There's not. And here's my question, that they're trying to fight to be recognized as a sexual orientation.
Absolutely
My
not.
belief is that if someone is gay,
Mhm.
they're gay. Correct?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So it's like sending, how successful were those camps back in the day when they were sending their children to camps to make them ungay?
Right. Exactly.
How successful were they?
Right.
It doesn't happen.
It doesn't.
So how are we going to undo a pedophile?
We can't.
People are who they are through the in this case,
Yes.
not with homosexuality, but in this case completely separate, which pisses me off that they're even trying to join that movement. But
It makes no sense.
it's frustrating because there is no rehabilitation. There is no
Absolutely not.
changing the mind of a sexual preference that they decided that they wanted to have.
Right.
It is through damage done, and I can guarantee you 99.9% that someone that has abused someone else has been abused themselves, because
I
my
agree.
grandfather was.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. I also have family members that have abused family members, and they were also, you know, sexually abused. I'm sure that the man that abused me, you know, had been before too. The sad thing is I used to think, you know, we had some kind of omen over our family because there was 4 boys and myself, and every single one of us were sexually abused by different people, and I couldn't like wrap my head around that. Then I began with my late father. He's gone, and my mother's still living. And with all due respect to them, but then I just saw also the parenting of my situation, where there was no time for us. We weren't supervised. We could do whatever we wanted to do. They were wrapped up in their own world, and I think that. Parents need to know this happens. My kids were never allowed to spend the night at anyone's house, to go anywhere. I was that strict mom, but I
Mm-hmm.
was terrified.
Of course you were. I would be the same. I don't even have children, and I'm like that with my own nieces and nephews. I'm like, where are
Hmm.
you going? Who are you with? Who's there? Nope,
Hmm.
not on my time. You're not going.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they can't even cross the street, for Christ's sake. I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah.
No exaggeration. They're to stay on our lawn. And
Yes.
if anything, if a car ever comes by and they try to talk to them, I tell them immediately, run inside. Run inside.
Yes.
Don't ever entertain a conversation.
No.
Even when they
Absolutely
go to
not.
ice cream trucks, we're there. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way, like, not under my watch. It's
No.
not happening.
No.
Because you know what? The abuse, it took me, I believe, if I remember correctly, I was 27 or 28 when I finally told my parents everything.
Wow.
So, and that was because my parents always tried to communicate with me, but I wasn't ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because,
I can relate.
Christine, it's one thing to deal with the memory of it in your mind. It's
Yes.
another thing to say it out loud what happened. It's a very,
Absolutely.
just gives you
Oh,
a
I
rush.
get it.
You
I
just
still get
lock
that.
up. You lock up. You don't want to talk about it. It's violating all over again. So it took
Yes.
me a long time, but I remember when I sat down and we were in the living room. It was my mom, my dad, me, my mom, and my dad, and they were watching TV. And all I said was, "I'm ready to talk about it." And they just turned the TV off. It was like they knew exactly what was about to happen. And you know what, Christine? Like, I'm not a parent, but I really just felt for my parents because they instantly go into, it's my fault.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Why didn't this happen? Why
My,
couldn't I recognize that? Why did that? You go into blaming yourself, and because as
yes.
a parent you want to protect your child at all
Absolutely.
costs. At least good parents, you want to protect your
Absolutely.
children at all costs.
Yes.
And so our healing now is my healing with them. my healing in making them understand that they were the best parents a girl could ever ask for. They were always there. And I don't ever cry about my abuse anymore because I've
Mm-hmm.
spent so many years doing that.
Yeah.
But I want to cry when I think about my parents
Yes.
because I love them so much.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandfather robbed my relationship with my father because my father was terrified to hug me. My father was terrified to think that if he touched me that it would make me feel uncomfortable. Like, do you understand how that
Yes.
makes a child feel when her own father's terrified to hug her?
Yes. Absolutely.
That's where
It.
my anger stems from because I love my father so deeply. And every time I bring anything up, you can just see the tears start flooding. And that's where I hurt the most right now because I want them to know just how much I love them and that it wasn't their fault and that there was nothing they could have done differently. Nothing.
Absolutely.
And that
Absolutely.
it's taken this process to make us closer, but over the lockdown, my dad and I finally healed.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I just said to him, I just want you to hug me. I just want my dad to hug me. And he just hugged me so tight. And it was like, we became inseparable over lockdown. And when I left to come back to England, he said, he's like, I know you have to go, it's time for you to try to get back to work. But he said, I feel like I'm losing my right hand because we grew so tight that it was like we did everything together. So in some weird way, this lockdown was exactly what I needed, what we needed,
It's
and
been a blessing.
it's been a blessing in disguise. Even
Yes.
though I may have lost some things, like I may have lost
Sure.
some some work out of it and some money out of it.
Yes.
I it was exactly what our souls needed as a family to sort of heal and mend, and I'm really happy that now my dad hugs me, like he actually hugs me.
I think people don't realize that it just does not affect the victim. It does affect the whole family. And a lot of times, we as victims, we have this like misplaced guilt or guilt that doesn't belong to us because we have nothing to feel guilty about because we were the ones that were victimized. But a lot of times, for myself, I know I was like, I should have done this, I should have done that. Maybe if I wouldn't have gone here, done this, I would go through that in my mind. And something that I've really struggled with for many years is that my brother, who we were very close, and we're still close again now. He's a little bit younger than I. He was abused by one of our babysitters, and he used to always want to sleep with me, and we were best friends, and I didn't want him to because we were little, and he would pee in the bed, and so I was like, get out of my bed, I don't want you peeing on me. Um, but for many years, my mother, in the beginning, blamed me for his abuse because I wouldn't let him sleep with me that night. And so I carried that for so many
Oh,
years, and I was a kid. If I would have known that anyone was hurting my brother, I most definitely would have reacted. But so some of those things too, my point is that it affects the whole family. Um, I need to, I have totally forgiven my mother, and I know she would never wish anything on her children negatively, but, I haven't had a real conversation with her, but, you talking about your relationship with your parents and how y'all have had a real conversation and there's been healing. I'm reflecting and I see that I need to do the same thing because we all need healing. We're never going to get over what happened to us. Um, I use the example of the broken mirror. You break a mirror and you can patch it back together and you can still see a beautiful reflection, but it will never be whole again. But I think another reason that I admire you so much, well, it is a reason, is because even though you have these things that have happened to you, you are successful. You are doing exactly what you want to do. And there are many young men and women who can't even walk out of their house. They can't even leave their bedroom. And I have felt that way before. I can say that. But you continue to fight on to do what you want to do. And I'm trying to do that. My husband and I opened up a boxing gym, a nonprofit boxing gym, not telling anyone why, but because I wanted to help people. I wanted to protect. I wanted to give someone another place outside of their home if they needed that. Um, so, in our own little way, we can choose to be abusers or we can choose to fight against it. And I'm so glad we crossed paths. And I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing because it motivates me. And I know you're motivating others.
I wish it wasn't under these sort of circumstances, but I do feel the same. Like, I'm grateful that when you did reach out to me, I was like, I'm not happy to hear that other people have encountered
Right.
it, but there is this sort of safe space that you find with someone who can understand and who is in the exact same mental space as yourself, where you're like I was saying the other day, like one day I'm really happy and I'm good, and the next day I'm
Yes.
just not okay.
Yeah.
And I hope that eventually fades. I hope that, or if it is a lifetime battle, then I guess I'm just gonna have to brace myself for that. Although I don't want to believe that is the case. I It's just a lot.
It is a lot. It is. One thing that
You don't
it, you don't
no one gets
understand.
it unless you've been through it. Nobody understands. Like I'm really strong. I found
Mm-hmm.
my voice in this.
Yes.
Um, my dad said you really are strong because I'm a fighter, and
Yes.
I overcome everything. And I understand. Like, when I look back, I think I really always had God's mercy, because there were so many instances where it should have just gone the opposite direction, and I was
Yeah.
protected. And it was like, I'm not saying, like, I how do I say this? Like, I can't go back. It's impossible to go back. That's just the way life works. But even though I've been through so much, I would never take back anything, because then I wouldn't be here.
Right.
I think that every battle I've ever had has led me to be who I am at this very moment. And and I don't know how. I don't have the financial means. If I won the lotto tomorrow, I would be doing this full time. Like,
Yes.
really,
Yes.
just because that's really where my heart is with it.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to do what I can,
Absolutely.
even if that's under criticism or people deciding to unfollow me because they don't want to hear about it. That's fine. I just feel like we have to do something. And
Yes.
I can only imagine the people who have gone through far fucking worse.
Yeah. I think about that as well.
And
I
like
do.
how they need us. Like, they need
Yes.
people to help them,
They do. They
because
do.
they will fall into a deep dark hole and never come out.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong, I've never publicly admitted this, but I was 18 when I tried to kill myself. Um, and I was in a really dark place because I wasn't talking about it. I wasn't talking about anything. My parents were having the hardest time with me because I was rebelling on every level, but every time they tried to get me to talk, I just refused.
Oh my gosh, yes, I can so
And
relate.
I remember taking a bunch of pills one night, and I just remember feeling so empty. Like, I couldn't even explain how empty it felt. It just felt like, why am I even here? That's how it felt. Why am I even here? And I grew up in the church. I don't
Me
believe in
too.
suicide. I don't.
Right.
So you have to understand where I was mentally for me to go that route.
I totally do. I totally do. I was 18 and I did the same thing. You know, it's just you feel worthless. Nobody's going to miss you anyway. You're more of a burden than anything else, and
Which
there's
is
no
so not
self
the
love.
truth.
It's
Which is
not.
so not the truth. And it's
It's
like,
a lie.
but you're in your head. That's exactly where you're at. And
Yeah.
at the time, it was my brother's wife. They're not together anymore, but she was my sister-in-law, and she came into my room, and she saw. I don't know. I can't remember the details specifically. I just remember that she noticed something was wrong, and she went and told my parents immediately. And it's a bit fuzzy. I went to the hospital.
Mm,
I was put into a mental institution, the 5150.
yeah.
And do you know what the doctor said when they released me to my parents? The doctor said to him, or my parents, was, she doesn't want to die. She's just really screaming to be heard. And my parents were like, we're trying. And they're like, but you have to keep trying. Like, you have to keep trying. You can't stop trying. And because when he was talking to me, he was like, you don't want to leave. You just don't know
Mm-mm.
what to do. You don't know where to turn.
Absolutely.
You don't know who to talk to. You don't know. There's an element of shame that comes with admitting that you
Yes.
were sexually violated. You don't,
Yes.
maybe you don't feel safe telling your parents that or comfortable, but you want to tell somebody.
Yes. It's so true.
It's just, it's a lot. And so that's why it's like, I hate how dismissive society is to abuse, because we wonder why we have so many problems in the world. We have so many dysfunctional people walking the streets, and
Yes.
these people have stories. These people have things that happen to them. Maybe not always sexually, but just abuse in general.
Yes.
And so it's just like, we just need to be kinder to each other.
Oh gosh,
We just
yes.
have to understand that if somebody is an asshole, sometimes there's a reason why.
Yes.
Like,
Absolutely.
we don't want to help people. We choose to ignore things if it doesn't
Hmm.
affect you directly. If you're
Right.
not directly affected by something, you don't want to deal with it. But if once you are, you want to suddenly fight for it. You want to help. It's like we should just be doing so much more, and we're not. And it's so infuriating. And then seeing society, like, nobody wants to talk about it. The media is absolutely god awfully silent.
Oh
Do you know what
yeah.
I mean? And it's like,
There's
why?
nothing in
Why is the
mainstream
media so
media.
silent? And it makes
Yeah.
you think about bigger agendas, and makes you think about, how deep rooted this pedophilia runs, and how common it is, and how it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. I
Yeah.
mean, and like you, when I was younger, because, you know, I was born in the 80s, and back then, no one talked about this. Nobody
No.
at all.
No.
And when you have a child go to the police, they instantly want to go, oh, they don't know what they're talking about.
Exactly. Because you can't explain it. You cannot explain what happened to you. You don't have the words. You have no clue
Yeah.
on how to describe it. That's one thing my mother said. Well, you never really told me. You just told me that he came on to you. Well, that's the only word that I knew.
You don't
I
know things. You don't know things. When I when I was, it's like when you got to understand when a child's telling you something like that, you
Yes.
have to believe them. You have to
Yes.
understand that it's happening to them. And you, of course, you get those people who argue like, oh, what about children who cry wolf? It does not matter. It needs to be investigated
Yes.
regardless. You can't
Absolutely.
make the assumption that they're just lying because maybe they want attention.
Absolutely.
There's always just something so much more to it. And I, again, I'm so new at this whole, speaking out about it. I haven't even found, you know, I haven't really found like where I'm going to fit in all of this. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how I'm going to be able to help make a change. I haven't figured that out yet. I just know that I'm moving in that direction, and I'm just sort of allowing God to lead me there because I don't really I don't know. I
You know,
just know
you're
that.
doing it now. You're doing it now. You definitely had me thinking and reaching out to you, and you're doing it now. And it's just gonna it's gonna come. You know, whenever we say yes to God, He opens those doors and He shows us where we need to go and what we need to do. And we have to have the courage. You know, regardless of the platform, whether it be big or small, we have to use it for good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're doing, you know. And I'm the same way. I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to fit in. I don't know how you're going to use me, Lord, but use me. Like, use me in whatever aspect that you need to. This is so serious. And like you said, it totally it can ruin your whole life. It can. But we have to do something positive with it.
Do you know my ex-boyfriend's mom, who she's now passed away. I was in a relationship for 7.5 years. He was like my first boyfriend, like first love. Was really close with his mom. And after this whole incident happened, um, she sat me down one on one to talk to me. And she said, she's like, I just want you to lie down on the couch and I just want you to close your eyes and I just want to talk to you. And she's like, I want you to visualize your mom and dad standing over your casket. I want you to visualize them looking down at you and wondering where they felt they went wrong. That shit broke me.
Yeah.
Because it was never their fault. But imagine if I had died, they would
Yeah.
have blamed themselves.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
I realized I had a lot of soul searching to do and a lot of fixing to do. But I couldn't allow it to be, the blood be on someone else's hands. And I had to stop believing that if I spoke out about it, that I was bringing the family shame. Because
That's been
people
my
feel
problem.
shame
Yeah.
when they're talking about it. When it's like, the person who did it should feel the shame. Why does the
Yeah.
victim feel the shame? So
Absolutely.
I had to get past that. And after that conversation, when she was explaining it in that way, me imagining my own funeral, it was a bit of an eye-opener for me, and it was exactly what I needed to truly understand, like, that I can't make this someone else's problem, and I can't make this become someone else's burden, because it's a ripple effect. Like, only God knows what that could have done to the rest of my family and their mental state. And so it was after that point, I really, really had to start to figure things out. But it was only when I started, obviously he and I broke up, but it was after that point when I started to date, I understood how deep rooted it was.
Yes.
And it took me into my early 30s in understanding that I was allowing certain things to affect my relationships and I wasn't even recognizing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm much more aware now than I've ever been, which is probably
That's
why
beautiful.
I'm more I'm stronger now
Mm-hmm.
in my relationships. I'm more vocal in the sense that if something is bothering me, I'm not going to be afraid to say it. Whereas before I used to hide my emotions and
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously what happens when someone hides their emotions for so long? They just explode, and it's an
Explode.
situation. So I had to
Absolutely.
learn to communicate better. I had to learn to be honest with myself that if I was uncomfortable with anything, I needed to say that. And so I really found my voice now. And I had to ask myself, are you a victim or are you a survivor? And I chose to be a survivor in all of this. And so
Absolutely.
even just last December, less than a year ago, I had gone to counseling because I was tired of letting it affect my personal life. And I needed to really seek out why I was doing that. Because I don't want to be in a dysfunctional relationship anymore. And I want to find someone who's really genuinely respects me and loves me. Not says they love me and then they hurt me,
Right.
but someone who genuinely will approach me, whether I'm strong or fragile in the moment, and
Yes.
understand this is Michelle, this is what she's been through, and I'm going to go through this with her. Because you have to understand the mind of someone who has gone through trauma to be in a relationship with them. Otherwise, they'll never understand it, and it just won't work. And I've realized that. So my prayer
Absolutely.
is for someone who's going to understand it. And it has to be with somebody who's going to approach it with sensitivity and respect. And so, yeah, so that's sort of where I am um, now, today.
And you definitely will find that. When you said something earlier about anyone that you had ever been with before, they never really loved you. I could totally relate to that. I met my husband. I was a single mother with 8 children, the husband that I have now. And he genuinely loves and understands. When he saw that I was having these episodes of depression, anger, sadness, he immediately started researching, and he knew what I had been through, and encouraged me to exercise and take vitamins, and just was so kind and loving, and he still is. And
Mm.
in the beginning of our relationship, I'm surprised he didn't like run for the hills, because I was a mess, and any little thing I was like, well, just leave. You're going to leave. I'm leaving. And he's like, you're not going anywhere. And neither am I. We're going to work through this. And I had never had that before.
Yeah.
But what I did was I wrote down exactly what I wanted. Even if I didn't feel at the time that I deserved it, this is what I wanted. And I put it in my Bible, and I was like, Lord, I'm going to raise my kids the best they can, but you're going to have to take care of this part.
Mm-hmm.
And he absolutely surpassed my list. And that was only God.
Mm-hmm.
And you absolutely will.
Do you know what?
Because, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have in my Bible right now, I wrote down verses, and they're verses of love and protection, meaning like that's what
Wow.
I'm seeking.
Yes.
It's sitting in
Yes.
my Bible, and it will stay there. And because that's my heart's desire, is to for me to
Yes.
find someone who's really going to understand me fully,
Yes.
me, not just the me they think they see, or the me
Right.
I put on social media, or the me who's doing interviews, but really the deep, like the deep rooted stuff too, because we all come with
Yes.
some form of baggage.
Absolutely.
And and it's like I just want someone who's going to say, let me help pick that up for you. And
Yes.
not that they're going to make it better, but it helps when you have someone who could put their arm around you and say, everything's going to be okay. Because it
Yes.
will be okay if you believe it's going to be okay. But when you feel like you have no one telling you that, and you have no support system, which is why I'm saying there's so many people out there that don't, it gets really dark. And I can understand why people feel like they can't do it anymore. And so
Yes.
it's so vital to have that love and patience for people, even if you can't relate to them. Like,
Most
I
definitely.
had someone tell me, everywhere I go, my sister and I do this, everywhere we go, we joke that if we have any cash on us, we always end up coming back with nothing, because we always give it to the homeless people.
Yep.
And because we just, like, I can't walk past someone and not give them some money.
I
And
feel that. Yeah.
and my um, I had a friend who I stopped and I only had a $10 bill. So I didn't have anything less than that. And I walked up to him and I just said, I just want you to know that God put it in my heart to give this to you. So God bless you. Because I always let it be known that that's where it's coming from. And
Absolutely.
my friend said, "Do you know that guy? He's pretty well known for like being on drugs." And I said, "That's not my problem. Our problem is to not assume
Right.
what someone's going to do with that. Our problem is not
Absolutely.
to judge somebody based on their struggles, because that's a struggle for them. They're on the
Yes.
streets. Like, no one wants to be on the streets. They're on the
Mm-hmm.
streets for some reason." And I said, when God tells you to give someone something, that's because that's his way of providing for them. So you don't know if they were just praying,
Yeah.
asking God, I'm hungry. Could you please provide for me today? And
Yep.
someone just did it, and that just motivated them to be like, whoa, like God is listening to me. Like, we have to
Yes.
do those little kind gestures. And
Absolutely.
I said, it is not my problem to assume what someone does with the money. My responsibility is to help. And
Yes.
if they decide to go buy drugs with that, then that's what they've done. That's their struggle. That's their journey.
Yes.
I'm here
Absolutely.
to do the right thing by helping, even if it's in some small capacity. So I think as a society, you see homeless people, and people walk right past them like as if they deserved it.
Right.
And I'm like, God, you just don't get it, do you? Like,
No, they don't.
no one would have thought that at 18 years old that I would have done that to myself.
Yeah.
But I did, because we're all in different phases of our lives, and people can become better if you help them. But that's the
Absolutely.
problem with our society. Everyone's so selfish, and everyone wants
Yes.
to do. They like. I don't know if you saw that video of a girl. It went viral where a girl was pretending like she was helping, clean up Santa Monica because of all the protesting that was
I
going on,
saw that.
rioting, and she just did it for a
Yes.
photo op. And I'm
I
like,
saw
God,
that.
that's
That was
disgusting.
horrible. It is.
And that's the thing, is like, we we have to be we have to be okay with telling people what you're doing, because that inspires other people to want to do it. Like, I have a group
Yes.
of friends, and we got 50 we put $50 into it, and we were able to feed so many homeless people off $50, because we made
Wow.
sandwiches, chips, water, snacks, and we put them in these little brown baggies, and we were delivering them food. And I don't know if you know this, but in Los Angeles, it's illegal to feed the homeless.
I did
You'll get
not.
ticketed. You'll get
Oh my
ticketed.
gosh.
So we all went into it thinking, well, if we get pulled over and we end up getting ticketed, a couple $100,
Right.
and that's just what's going to happen. But thankfully, there were a few officers that drove by and acted like they didn't see nothing, and that was great. But you can make so much of an impact and a change by something so minimal. So people have this assumption that you have to have all the money in the world to do it,
No.
and that's not the
Small,
case.
small little acts of kindness and love. That's all
If
we're
we
asked
if
to do.
Even if we helped one person in our community, if that was
Yes.
our responsibility in life, to help one single person, we would have a completely different world.
Absolutely.
But we
Absolutely.
don't. We think for ourselves, and everyone's guilty of getting caught up in their own shit.
Yes.
And I'm glad that I have enough of a relationship with God to understand that when I am getting caught up in my own shit, that He pulls me out of it real
Yeah.
fast,
Oh gosh.
and makes me
Yes.
recognize, Michelle, you haven't been doing this, or you're not praying anymore, or you're not reading
Mm-hmm.
your Bible at night anymore.
Yep.
Everyone's journey is different. I'm not saying
Yes.
whether you believe in Jesus or anyone else for that matter.
Right.
Journey in general it doesn't have to come down to that. It comes down to just trying to be a better person. And
Exactly.
so, and mind you, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect by any
Oh,
means
I'm
necessary,
definitely
but
not.
I I want to think that where I am, like, how do I say this? Like, where I have figured out with myself is that I do try to do my best. Like, I actually try to put my best foot forward. So again, no one's perfect, but but yeah, I know I'm going a bit off topic, but my
No,
point
you're
is
good.
that
I think exactly what you're saying is correct. I mean, I go through the same things, and my husband gets mad at me sometimes because I'll get some money from somewhere, and then I help everybody. He's like, well, I mean, that's good. You're helping everybody, but now, and I'm just like, I can't help it. I just, that's just who I am. And then, it happens again. And I think that we have to be obedient to God when He asks us to do something, no matter how crazy it is. We have to do it. We
you
don't
know
know
it's
what that
funny.
person's going through.
One time, this is like I was a waitress and bartender. This was like in my early 20s, and I was living in LA, and I was short like 500. I think it was $511 on rent. I mean, it was a bad month in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I only had one night before rent was due, and I had
Mm-hmm.
$10 in my center console, and I saw a homeless man, and I remember feeling like God said give that $10 to him, and I was like, I can't. How can I give it? I don't even have any money. Like I can't even pay my rent.
Yeah.
How am I going to feed myself? Like I remember having this sort of argument in my head, and I drove past him, right? So it irked me so bad.
Yes.
It was like he was
I
like,
know
"You better
that.
turn around. You better turn around, Michelle. Turn around." I turned around. I went back and I gave the guy the $10, and it's not that I didn't want to. It was just in the
Right.
moment I'm thinking, how? I can't
Of
even pay
course.
my own bills, and you want me to give my last $10 away? Like, how am I going to do this?
Yes.
But it was like in that moment, it was like just trust me, and
Yes.
so I did. And I am not making this up by any. I swear it to you, it happened. After that night was so good on tips that by the end of that night, because I remember there being some sort of like UFC fight
Uh-huh.
on at the time, and so that more people were in than usual, and I remember after I tipped out the bar back, and I tipped out the bus boy and everything. I literally had $511.
I believe it.
I could not. I literally was like, no way did that just happen. And that just goes to show, like, we have to listen to our intuition.
Yes.
We have to listen to
And trust
and
Him.
trust.
Yes.
I mean, it was like,
Yeah.
how is this gonna happen? I'm giving my only $10 away, and so I've learned that in life, one thing I can say is even when times have got so hard and things seem questionable, like how how is that ever going to happen for me? I have been able to turn a vision into a reality.
Yes.
I have been able to do things and travel the world like I never thought I would.
Yes.
I have been able to have employees and still pay myself. I have managed to make everything happen. And not a second, not a moment goes by that I'm not telling God thank you. Because
Yes.
whether you believe in Jesus Christ or a higher being, whatever it
Yes.
is that your soul wants to call it, I
Yes.
know that there's like a bigger, like there's like a bigger divine figure that is always
Absolutely.
looking out for you when
Absolutely.
you pay it forward. When you're good, good happens to you. And so
Yes.
in some capacity throughout my entire life, I had a roommate in Hollywood once. I think it was like, I don't even know. I remember when the movie The Secret came out. I didn't even know what
Uh-huh.
the heck
I didn't either.
what any
Yeah.
of that was, right?
Yeah.
She comes home and she goes, "You really have to watch that DVD." I go, "What is it?" And she's like, "It's called The Secret." And I thought, "Oh, I don't want to. That sounds like some cult stuff. Like,
See,
what
me
is
too. I
that?"
still haven't watched it.
Oh my god, it's amazing. You have to.
Okay.
And
Okay. I'm
here's
gonna watch.
and here's why. Because she said, "Michelle, watch the first 10 minutes. If you don't like it after that, then turn it off." But she goes, "Remember how I'm always telling you that everything always ends up working out for you? Like like you just have the best luck." And she always used to say that to me. "God, everything always happens for you." And I'm like, "But when I watched that DVD, I came to understand that was because it wasn't because I was lucky. It was because I always saw the glass as half full.
Yes.
My mentality was always how am I going to make this happen rather than it's not going to happen? My
Absolutely.
mentality is it's going to work out. I don't know how, but it will. And I always sort of, I didn't know what laws of attraction were. Like, what the hell's that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when I finally understood that I had been applying that to my life, my whole life, I mean,
Yes.
my parents will tell anybody that since I was a young girl, I used to say, I'm going to move to England. I'm going to be on TV. I used to interview invisible people,
Oh,
literally with
wow.
a little. Mind you,
Yes.
I wanted to be an actress at the time. I didn't want to do interviews. I didn't want to be an interviewer, but I had this whole different vision for myself. But I always knew in some capacity it was like in front of the camera. But I always said I want to move to England. I want to move to, and my parents never understood it because none of our families from England.
Yeah.
We don't
Where'd you
know
get
anyone
that?
from England. No one's ever been to England. So they're like,
Yes.
what is your fascination with this England place? And so now I remember my mom not long ago. She was like, "Isn't it weird that like since you were young, you always used to say you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and it's like you always just knew."
Yes.
And so my whole life I've been sort of professing what is going to come into existence, and I've always
Absolutely.
believed it. Even when I remember I was a bartender at a pretty popular spot in Sherman Oaks, and I remember the owner saying, "Well, girl, you better get on your sports stuff because you're getting old. And once you get to a certain point, like it's never going to happen for you." And I remember it led a little bit of fear into me because I was still in my mid-20s. I wasn't
Yeah.
old. And I was
No.
like, "Oh my God, what if it never happens for me? What if it's not going to happen for me? How is it going to happen for me? I don't even know where to start. Do I go to school? What if I go to school but I can't pay my bills if I can't do this
Mm-hmm.
and that?" It just happened, and it was because I just put everything in motion, and I
Yes.
just said that this is what I want to happen, and the way everything sort of came about has been nothing short of God's hand, nothing short of it.
Absolutely.
So
You know what I believe, and I tell my kids this, and I believe it in my own life too, is that God gives us desires and then he allows them to manifest.
mhm,
Same with me. Ever since I was 5, 6 years old, boxing was like everything for me. With everything that went on, making wrong choices, I was literally pregnant from 18 to 29
mhm,
every single year. Oh, it's too late for me. But I still had those desires. But after that, I was like, you know what? It's not too late for me. It doesn't matter. God put these desires in my heart and he's going to make it happen. All you have to do is step out in faith, even with your fear, your insecurities, your lack of confidence, or I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not this or that. We have to step out because what's meant to be is going to be.
yeah,
And it's so I'm laughing and smiling while you're talking because I too, I was a waitress. I was a bartender. It's like everything, it was just the same. And I
yeah,
was an actress when I was not an actress literally, but you're a waitress, you're an actress. Like I was the best waitress.
mhm,
And that's how I supported my 8 kids, a
mhm,
single mom, because I would make a lot of money, you
mhm,
know. But God has always been there.
yeah,
He's always been there. And the 18-year-old girls that wanted to take their lives, not really, but didn't feel like they were worth anything, he didn't allow it to happen because
mhm,
he had big plans,
mhm,
and he still has big plans. And we just got to keep going. And I am definitely with you on this fight to end this horrible thing that is happening to our children,
mhm,
because there are some children that maybe don't have the faith of God, or they don't want to die, but they accidentally do die because of everything that they're going through. And we have got to do our part. And God is showing me that, and he's showing me that through you as well.
mhm.
So I'm with you on this. In anything that you do in the future, in the present, whatever, I am totally with you on this.
And you know what, and the same with you. So like, and I'm glad that we've connected.
Me
And
too.
I really want people, including yourself, if you can, to check out Child Rescue Coalition, which is doing
Absolutely.
great things. They depend on donations in order to train police officers in every community to trace and track people who are exchanging child pornography. So, the thing is we can have that help in the community, but they need funding in order to train the officers.
Okay.
There's another one called Operation Underground Rescue. They are forever rescuing sex trafficking victims. I believe, I hate to give a wrong number, but
Yes.
they've rescued thousands of children so far.
Oh,
And another one is
that's
called
great.
Children's Riot.
Okay.
They are forever updating people on what's going on in various parts of the world, and they're a great base for information on how you can help in various communities. So that's just my encouragement to people to go
Yes.
check out those three organizations that I've been very, very blessed to find and be a part of, and learn more about it. I'm always getting people saying, like, how can I help? And it really is as simple as, most of these organizations are nonprofits, so they're working solely off of donation.
Okay.
um $5, if you imagine, if even if like $1 of every single one of my followers right now, we
Yeah.
would be able to have, you know what, $98,000. Think about it like that.
Absolutely.
So if everyone
Absolutely.
just contributed even just a small amount, we would be able to see massive change made. It just takes you having to do it and encourage other people to do it as well. So that's all I can do. I am forever trying my best. I'm going to try to see if I can get any boxers who are willing to donate signed gloves that we can auction off, so that the money,
Fabulous.
the proceeds, can go to helping fund these organizations that are doing God's work.
Absolutely. And I do encourage everyone, to look at these organizations and to do some research. Sometimes it's kind of scary to do research because of the things that you're going to find.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can imagine, we're on the computer and we're terrified. You can only imagine the children that are going through this. So we
Yeah.
have to be a voice. We have to do it. And also, I encourage anyone that is listening, that is going through any kind of abuse or knows somebody, that they just go to somebody that they trust, and they report it, because it's got to end, and we've got to get these monsters off the street and away from our children.
You know what? I want to give the correct information, so I'm going to pull it up real quick.
Yes, yes, please.
I do think it's important for people to know, when you recognize something, or you want to, give over any information, and you don't know where to turn to, who to call. There is an actual number. This has been posted numerous times. It says, if you find a Facebook page, Instagram page, anything that you realize that is, whether it be exploiting children sexually, or a pedophile. They're very easy to find on Instagram. It's really sick,
Yes.
but they're super easy to find. I mean, all you have to do is read the comments, search these people's names. They're Some of these pedophiles even have, like, the real personal information on there, like their Facebook pages, their employers. It's very shocking how open they are about it. But what can you do when you have
Right.
people, or when you have platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram that are protecting the
Right.
pedophiles?
Yes.
But it says, if rather than notifying Facebook directly, because obviously they're not willing to do crap about it, you can call the Human Trafficking Hotline, which is 1-888-373-7888. So that's
Okay.
where you want to call, or you can text 233-733 if you have any information that you feel can be helpful in reporting these people.
I will definitely also post that and share that. And I just appreciate your time so much. I really do. This is not an easy subject, but it's one that needs to be addressed and talked about. And I appreciate you so much, being so open, and such a wonderful person. You're a beautiful soul. You really are. And I thank you so much for everything that you do.
And thank you for asking me to do this, because I keep saying I want to do it, and then I just
I totally
thinking like, where
understand.
do I even begin? And
Yes.
so, funny enough, like I got messaged from you, and then now I'm going to be speaking with the Child Rescue Coalition as well, and telling them.
Fabulous.
So
That's
it's,
fabulous.
yeah. So
You'll
thank
have
you
to
for
post
having.
where we can find the interview too,
Yeah.
and everything, so I can share it, and we
Okay.
can get in this fight together.
100%. Well, thank you,
Yes.
Christine. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.